Pokemon sprites have a tremendously important role on how they are perceived. Like Ekans going from a cool venomous snake to...
What the hell is even that?
And other Pokemon straight up looking like they got thrown in the washing machine and got their color washed out. Like what happened to Zekrom? This is Pokemon Black, not Pokemon Light Gray. Pokemon going from 2D to 3D was a change that was bittersweet. There were a lot of good things that came from going to 3D, but I can't deny it. I think we can all agree that there was a certain charm to the Pokemon sprites that just hit different, you know? So here are the top 10 worst Pokemon sprites. Coming in number 10, we got Arcanine. Arcanine, what'd they do to you? They straight up massacred my boy. Okay, hands down, this is one of the worst transitions from 2D to 3D. Arcanine straight up going from legendary menacing beast to a statue is one of the biggest crimes in Pokemon history. Like for real, this 3D model personally offends me. This thing needs to be captured and locked up for good. All of the previous sprites had playful, fierce personalities. Like the sprites actually look like a dog. Honestly, and this kind of pains me to say it, this 3D model of Arcanine just kind of ruined Arcanine a bit for me. Actually, let me know down in the comments, like, if there's any Pokemon that you just don't use anymore because of the 3D models. Arcanine was actually the first Pokemon I ever got to level 100 in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, but ever since the 3D models, I haven't touched it since. I really hope for Generation 10, since it's the 10th generation, that they do like a really massive overhaul for the animations and give back that personality which felt like was missing from Pokemon for a long time. Alright, next we have Politoed. Look how much fun he's having. A lot of these 3D sprites aren't necessarily bad per se, but they're just very soul-sucking. They all just look like they stared at Medusa. Politoed now just looks like he's seen some shit.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Okay, maybe this one should be higher up on the list, but coming in number 8, it's Electros. Like, what was Game Freak thinking?
What's this, you fucking piece of shit? What's this? Huh? What's this, motherfucker? What's this? Huh?
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
What the fuck is this, motherfucker?
Hey, look, it's an eel, I get it. But why does it look like it's swimming on land? This is easily one of the biggest changes they've ever made to a Pokemon sprite. Like, it almost looks like two completely different Pokemon. When I first saw this thing in Pokemon Black and White, I was like, I wanted this thing on my team. But once it got its 3D model, I completely forgot about this thing. I could not care less. Also, I know it has levitate, but still, it just looks weird. It doesn't look right. Is it just me, or does it look like it ate one of those magic mushrooms from Mario that makes you shrink? Alright, falling into the number 7 spot, we got practically every flying type ever. They all just look like they're being dangled by an invisible string. Special shout out to Skarmory, Xatu, and Swellow for being extra weird. In Generation 6, they introduced a new mechanic called Sky Battles. Because of this, every flying type had to be off the ground. But because of this, it just made Pokemon look really strange. They just look so unnatural gliding in one spot. It's like they're just screaming, "Hit me! Hit me!" Honestly, I think we need walking, flying Pokemon animations again, and just scrap the whole idea. They need to be taken out. Jumping into the number 5 spot, we got washed out colored Pokemon. So Pokemon like Zekrom, like I mentioned earlier, Pokemon that just, their colors completely changed after they got their 3D models. Pokemon like Zekrom, Gengar, and Starmie just looking completely different. Even shiny models changed. Like, look at this Lantern. Its 2D shiny sprite was that, but now its 3D model sprite is this? It really does just look like a lot of Pokemon were just left out in the sun for too long and got their color faded out. Number 4, we got Hitmontop. It's Hitmontop. It's supposed to be spinning on its head. It fits it so perfectly. Game Freak, why? Why? Why does it look like this now? Is it just me, or does this thing look like it needs to use the bathroom like really badly? Hitmontop being forced to be right side up was one of the worst decisions they've ever made. Second to only you not hitting that subscribe button. Now we're just left with Mr. Two-Step over here. I think we can all just agree that it was a poor decision on their part. Moving on. In number 3.
That's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
This one is the biggest contender for one of the worst 2D to 3D changes. I mean, color changes in Pokemon floating in air is one thing, but when a Pokemon completely changes its body proportions, like, it just doesn't look like the same Pokemon. Like, what am I looking at? Why did they make a cat stand up on 2 legs? Like, were they trying to take inspiration from Puss in Boots or something? It just seems to be a common thing with Game Freak where we beg these Pokemon that are based off animals to stay on their 4 feet. This one doesn't even make any sense. Like, it was already on its 4 feet. Why did it just stand up all of a sudden? With the evolution I understand, but it's the same Pokemon. Alright, coming in number 2. Nobody likes this Pokemon. I don't like this Pokemon, but it does have one of the worst sprite changes ever. It's Stunfisk. When this Pokemon was first released in Generation 5, you could at least see its sprite. From Generation 6 onward, you literally can't see this thing in battle. It's like you're battling paper. Well, at least luckily in Generation 9, there's free camera movement, so at least that fixes that problem, but it's still a horrible change. I mean, it's a change that makes sense based off what the Pokemon is, but when a sprite change makes it so you literally can't see the Pokemon practically, that's a pretty horrible change. I do have some honorable mentions like Blastoise, Empoleon, Mewtwo, and Nidoking. The reason why I didn't put them actually on the list is because they're not actually horrible. They just go from really cool looking sprites to kind of bland, boring, and losing that like fierce, aggressive look they had. Nidoking especially because it looks kind of derpy now. Alright, coming in number 1, it's Feraligatr. Feraligatr losing its thickness and its cake just is the most depressing thing ever. It was glorious. Oh well. Okay, for real. Alright, for number 1, it's Typhlosion. Game Freak took the fire extinguisher to Typhlosion. Looks like it got a haircut and not the good kind. What a fall from grace. He went from practically being one of the coolest fire starters to being Route 1 rodent. I mean, just take a look at the sprites. Like, look how cool they look. And look at them now. Game Freak will never forgive you for this one. Gen 10, fix this mess. 1 like or subscribe will stop a Pikachu from being abused.